Hi there, my name is David Batsoffen and I host a travel blog called Travel and Things. At the moment, I'm doing a series called In Conversation With, and today I'm talking to Roger de la Harpe, and Roger is from African Imagery, and we're going to be looking at some um, photography today, for want of a better term, how to make your pictures pop. Roger, good morning, welcome to you.
Morning, Dave. Trust you well.
I am indeed, thank you, sir. Would you care to share your screen with us and let's start the tutorial, as they say.
Let's do that.
While you're busy, can you talk and set up at the same time, or do you need to? All right. So what are we going to be looking at, Roger?
We're going to be looking at some bird photographs that we shot. The first one down in Cape Town.
Right.
And the second one here on the garden route.
Okay.
One with a gorgeous little sunbird on a flower.
Okay, so show us the picture and tell us the story.
So there it is. We were wandering around botanical gardens, shooting flowers actually, and it's not a bad place to photograph birds. So we got this picture of this sunbird, this malachite sunbird on a protea, and it looked rather gorgeous, I think. We do have a little bit of a problem in its neck here, some molting, I think, or transition from a juvenile to an adult or something like that.
Right.
But still a nice picture, I think.
I
this
think
one
so.
has been...
So what have you done to that image, Roger, from sort of what it was in the camera to how we see it now, or is that that straight from the camera?
This is after I've processed it in Adobe Lightroom, and
right.
I'm using the full version of Adobe Lightroom Creative Cloud. They call it Lightroom Classic. And we've been through it. It's had some levels checked. It's a little bit of vignetting on the outsides just to make the focus onto the bird. A little bit of a crop, and that's about it. This is a really simple, really basic post-production on this bird picture. There's nothing much involved at all.
Roger, just a quick question. The flower on the right-hand side of that frame, as I look at it,
yes.
Would you possibly consider cropping that out? It tends to draw my eye there for some reason. Or could you just get rid of it?
Well, you can do all it, Dave. These things, it all depends on how far you want to take it.
All right.
Of course, you can get rid of that. On a simple crop, we've got to just watch it. The bird's tail goes down to about here.
Ah, okay.
Now, what we could do is pop this into Photoshop and just get rid of that flower.
Right.
We can do that.
So if you're working in Lightroom, do you have to constantly move between Photoshop and Lightroom, or could you do all of this process work in Lightroom?
With what I was intending to do with this picture, you can do it all in Lightroom.
Right.
If you want to start doing big edits, like getting rid of this flower on the right here,
yeah,
there we need to go to Photoshop. If you want to remove a small little spot, say you've got a dust spot over here, very easy to do in Lightroom.
Okay.
But this one, we're not going to manage it in Lightroom. We've got to do that in Photoshop.
And is it easy to switch between the two softwares?
Yes, very. You just right-click the picture, and it says here, edit in Photoshop. And away you go, and edit it there. And then when you're finished, you just save that picture, close it, and it pops up in Lightroom. That's simple.
All right. Okay. So it's relatively easy, but would you suggest, and the reason, it's, they usually say, does anybody know X, asking for a friend? I'm not asking for a friend, I'm asking for me, because I'm useless at this. I've been, pardon me, paying for Lightroom and for Photoshop for years now, and I think I've used them twice. And the reason is, A, I'm scared of them, and B, I don't utilize them enough, which is, I think, a big mistake that a lot of people make. And maybe you can correct me on this, that you get better the more often you use it. It's pointless doing a course or watching somebody doing it, do it that day, and then not touch it again for 6 months.
Absolutely. You know, the more you use it, the better you get at it. You start to learn the shortcuts, the quick workarounds, and that sort of thing. And then also, if you watch a lot of YouTube videos and read a lot, which is what I do, there's an immense to be learnt out there about how to do post-production. And there's so many ways of doing it. You need to pick a way that works for you and gives you the result you want. But for a basic edit like this one, there's not much to it. And it's so easy in Lightroom. It's a matter of dragging a few sliders around.
All right, we've got some time left in this particular episode, so let's have a look at the other bird picture, Roger.
Right, so here we go. This one we photographed at Rondaflay, down on the garden route near Sedgefield.
Okay.
And this one is a little bit more involved on the edit. There's a little bit of a crop because my lens just wasn't quite long enough to get the composition I was looking for. So what I've done is I've cropped out, let's see if I can show it to you. No, wait, sorry. Let's go to develop module and let's see if we can do this, if it works. No. So this is it looked like that. We've got a little bit of the land and the stuff at the top, which I didn't like.
Yeah.
So what we did was we just cropped it a bit straight, got the levels right, and brought it in like that. And there we go.
Okay.
Much improved.
It is indeed.
A vignette around it. Dave?
Yeah, I'm here.
I thought I've lost you there for a moment.
No.
We've done a basic edit on this.
Right.
And then I brought out some of the detail in these gorgeous feathers on the darter's back.
I've never seen feathers like that. It almost looks like it's wearing a shawl. It's beautiful, Roger. It does indeed. Because these birds, much like lilac-breasted rollers, will sit for a long time. You can take hundreds of pictures of these things because they're really going nowhere slowly. And, you know, if it's the right time of the day, they're looking to get warmth on their wings. So that's exactly what happens.
Yes.
Stunning.
Dave, should we get through the edit on one of them?
Yes, let's do. We've got about 6 minutes, Roger.
All right, let's do the edit on this one and see if we've got time to do an edit on the darter as well. But I'm going to reset this picture now, and that's what I shot. That's out of, and it's probably a little overexposed. Easy to have because of this very dark area at the back here.
Yeah.
So something I learned a month or two ago is that Lightroom has got a very interesting button here on the right-hand side. It says auto. And I'm not a great fan of auto functions, but what I do now these days is I just click what Lightroom would do to the image. And that's what it would do to the image, which is somewhat improved.
Yep.
Now, we're going to go right down to the bottom here. I'm going to enable lens profile corrections, and I'm going to enable chromatic aberration. I'm going to put in a little bit of noise reduction because we can and because it does help with things. And then we're going to do a little bit of sharpening here. And what I want to do is just mask out the areas I don't want sharpened, because there's no sense in sharpening this area.
Yeah.
Because it's bland, there's no detail in there. And if you apply sharpening to that, what's going to happen is you're going to end up sharpening the noise that's in the image. If there's any noise, Lightroom will sharpen that, and that's the last thing you want. You know, you want that as bland as possible.
Yeah.
So if you hold the Alt key down and you click on this masking slider, everything that's white in the image will be sharpened. So that's the whole image. And as you drag that right, the black areas won't be sharpened. And so we just do that And there we go. Only the details now are being sharpened. So that results in a really nice, smooth background setup. And that's pretty much, I do that to pretty much all the images that we shoot. We can now start to work on the image itself. The first thing I would like to do, oops, sorry about that, is to crop into it. I find it just a little bit much space around the image.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's a little bit tight. And it's also a little bit bright still. So I'm going to just darken it slightly. And you'll notice here, when we clicked auto, it put in a little bit of saturation and a little bit of vibrance, which is good. And I think it's enough. I don't mess with those. The highlights, I'm going to, again, Alt key and drag this to the right to brighten the highlights. And you can see what's happening. They're popping up there at the bottom. So I'm going to pull this back until they get down to about that level. The blacks, we're going to do the same thing. And I'm going to darken the blacks. There they come. You can see them popping out in the white here. Go back a bit until they just start to disappear. And the whites as well. There we go. We can bring those back. And now if you look at the histogram, Dave, we've got a lovely full range of tones without any clipping at each end.
I think that is stunning, and it's not a major manipulation. It's not changing the image to from something it was to something it isn't, and then portraying that as the image that you shot. All you're doing is making the lens do, or making the camera do, what your eye would have seen.
Exactly that. Now, there are a couple of things I would like to do to it still. Is I'm going to put in a little bit of a post-crop vignette, okay, which is going to darken the corners.
Right.
And now you've got this bright area here, which, again, as you mentioned with the flower here, Dave, is a little bit distracting. It's pulling one's eye down here. So I'm going to go up here to this tool underneath the histogram, the brush tool, and I'm going to start painting over this area. Let's just put some brightness in here so we can see where we're painting. Okay. I'm going to put that bright area, double click the word exposure here on the top right. And now I'm going to darken that just so it goes away. Not completely. And what I'm going to do is just come back on the saturation a little bit, because as you darken the subject, the saturation levels increase. Yeah. So we just want to pull that back a little bit, and I'm going to put in a little bit of clarity on there just to start. And that's about where I would leave this.
And this was shot with what camera, Roger?
We can check that exactly. To E, and we can look down here. And it was shot on the Nikon D800 with a 80-400mm lens. And quite clearly, looking at this, is on the D800 you can zoom in camera. In other words, you can call it a sensor, which I did. It takes it down to the crop sensor size, and so it increased the effective focal length to 600mm. So you can see the actual focal length, 400. And on those crop sensor Nikons, there's a 1.5 times multiplication lens effectively, which makes it effectively a 600mm lens. Okay. And exposure 100th of a second at f5.6. ISO was 400.
Great stuff. Roger, we're going to leave today's lesson there. If you can lose your screen and come back to full screen, lose your monitor and come back to full screen for me.
I'm going to try that.
I think I can do it for, okay, now I've got you in full screen. I've disappeared now, which doesn't help me. Where am I?
It's this technology.
I know.
There we go. Stop sharing.
There we go. So now I'm back, and now I can do what I wanted to do, which was say Thank you very much to Roger. I've been in conversation with Roger de la Harpe. We've been looking at some photography today. Roger, thanks very much for joining me here on In Conversation With.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers, Dave.
Bye.